Hey everybody, welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. My name is Chris Bello, and today I've got Kate Toon on the show. Kate, welcome.
Woohoo! I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. And I just love your funny sense of humor. We've actually met in a clubhouse room and we've communicated in a few that I jumped into the rooms that you were hosting. And I kind of am getting a feel for your humor and your
That's good because not everyone gets my humor,
I love
especially
it.
in some of the US rooms that people are like, what are you talking about? It's that kind of British snarky humor that doesn't always go
Yeah.
down well.
Or sometimes you use a funny word that I'm like, is that even a word? I've never heard that at all. But
I do like to make up the odd word, but you know.
Well, I was just laughing because I saw your bio and then I put, I have the little thing that says anything else you'd like to share. And you put, I can hula hoop. Like,
Yeah, there you go. I guess one of the things that we'll talk about today is I don't take business too seriously anymore. I'm very serious about my business, but I don't take it too seriously, if that makes sense.
yeah, I can definitely tell just from your bio, just to introduce you real quick. So it says Kate Toon is an award-winning Misfit entrepreneur who works with small, big businesses and big brands to transform their online presence through powerful SEO, captivating content, and all the right digital marketing moves. So as a digital marketing and SEO educator, straight talking copywriting coach, author, educator, speaker, and podcaster, Kate has helped more than 10,000 other businesses demystify digital marketing, grapple the Google beast, and grow their success. Kate was named Businesswoman of the Year at the National My Business Awards and has spoken at events around the world, as well as running Australia's only dedicated copywriting conference, CopyCon. Anything else you'd like to share? I can hula hoop. Are you actually good at hula hooping?
You know what? I'll tell you a little secret. When I went on LinkedIn, everybody's profile said, I'm a this, a this, and a this. There were three things. And I'm a copywriter, an SEO consultant, and I didn't have a third thing.
So you
So
put
I just
hula hoop.
casually wrote hula hoop and I couldn't hula hoop. And then a big paper here, the Sydney Morning Herald, rang me and said, we've seen on LinkedIn that you're a hula hoop. We're doing a feature about hula hoopers. Would you like to be featured? And I had to admit that I couldn't hula hoop. So now I've actually gone and had classes because I didn't want to be a liar on LinkedIn. So now
Good
I'm a
to
brilliant
know.
hula hooper. There you go.
Awesome. Well, I know it's exciting to have you here on the show, and it is just crazy the power of social media because we've talked over audio on Clubhouse, and here we are face to face on a Zoom video call, and we've talked a lot about productivity. So I'd love to dive into that because there's so many tips on how to do things more efficiently and effectively, and delegate and outsource. So we could talk about anything at all that you want, but if you want to talk a little bit about your story first, like how did you get here and how did you know this is what you wanted to do and to be a misfit entrepreneur?
Oh, I'm not sure I grew up thinking this is what I wanted to do. I think I wanted to be a teacher. So I kind of am now. I think I've come full circle. But I left uni. I worked in events and then in digital marketing right at the beginning of it. I'm much older than you, Chris. So back in the UK, I helped build the first ever e-commerce site in the UK for a brand called Marks and Spencer. And then I came to Australia, worked at lots of different ad agencies like Ogilvy and some big global agencies here in London and in the US. And then I got pregnant and I couldn't keep doing that job because I was a contractor and I knew I wasn't going to get maternity leave. So I thought I'll start my own thing. And that's when katetoon.com was born. And I did a little bit of everything to begin with. And then over the years, I've slowly niched down into first SEO copywriting, then consultancy. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I started launching all my passive, I'm doing air fingers, passive income products. And now I don't have any clients. It's all members, courses, resources, conferences, all that good stuff. So no real clients, but lots and lots of customers.
That's great. And I love how you said passive with the air quotes because nothing really ever is truly passive. And you've got to do some level of work or maintenance or, tweaks every now and then, I would imagine. And I'm actually rereading The 4 Hour Work Week. Have you read that book?
I couldn't get through it, to be honest, because it just felt like a lie. No, I've read a lot of it, and I get the idea. I don't think I'll ever get down to 4 hours, but most of my business has been run on under 20. So
Awesome.
that's why productivity is such a big thing for me. And you and me were like, we just were jamming off each other's productivity tips.
So
and
many
I love
good
your
ideas.
scorecard. And so I've had to, by necessity, be super productive in minimal time. So yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, I guess one thing that I started rereading it again after a few years, and one thing that stood out to me that you're kind of on that level where it shows his timeline of like getting into entrepreneurship and then starting to make a lot of money and then being like, gosh, I hated my life. I needed to get away from delivering services because I was spending so much time. And that's kind of where I've been stuck in lately, where I'm like, gosh, I'm the one who's getting phone calls from clients and I need to do everything. And I need to really build it to that business. And I love how you've shifted to more products and conferences and more, like you said, quote unquote, passive, where you're not really working directly with clients, but they're purchasing your products.
Yeah. And I think it would all work fabulously if I wasn't the kind of entrepreneur that always needs to do something new. So, my business is big enough now, makes enough money that I'm happy. I mean, I'm not at some kind of Grant Cardone level of millionaireness, but I'm comfortable, but I can't stop making new things. As soon as I can stop making new things, maybe I could have a 4-hour work week, but one day I'll get there.
And I do see that because you've got your Facebook group and I see your email lists your emails go out, your newsletter, and then you've got Clubhouse rooms that you're doing as well. But I mean, that's part of it for me as well, as like, I'm bored right now. Like I'm trying to do more things because I have so much time that I'm bored, which is a good problem to have. It's much better than working 60 hours a week at a job that you don't like.
Well, this is it. If you've got that kind of mind that races, it's full of ideas. This is why this is the perfect job for us, because we can just do whatever we want every single day.
It's awesome.
And as long as we don't push ourselves too hard, which is sometimes the problem, but yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of entrepreneurs that I talk to echo that feeling of like, they've struggled with it. They sold their business to try to like semi-retire, but then they get so bored that they just buy another business. They have to be doing something. And so I think this can be that thing that gives us fun, allows us to be, have a creative outlet, while also making an income and an impact in other people's lives.
That's it. And hopefully dial it up and dial it down based on where we're at with our lives.
Exactly. That's the power of a true business, instead of having to, work for someone else or even create a job for yourself where you're just like self-employed and you're working for all these clients endlessly. But productivity, we've talked a lot about those things. I mean, would you like to share, what was the first productivity hack that you like came across that you're like, oh my gosh, this saves me so much time?
Well, I think because I worked in agency, and when I was in agency, I wasn't a copywriter. I was actually a project manager, a producer. So I was managing the timelines and managing, like 20 copywriters, 20 designers, developers, working with the agency. So kind of that real linchpin in the middle that was making everything work. And I think, one of the things that we used to do in agency was have what we call a WIP, a work in progress. So every day we would have every single job that we were doing, and we would just run through and just see what was the next step. And that was our first action of the day. So I've got loads of different tips, but one of the things I learned as a supplier, somebody who has clients, is the first thing I do in the morning is try and bat the tennis ball back into their side of the court. So as quickly as possible, I'm taking stuff off my plate and making it the client's problem. And then they've got a whole day or whatever to come back to me, which means during that day, I can crack on with the work. So, just trying to go through my inbox and see if there are any emails that I can answer in 2 or 3 lines that just mean they're out of my inbox and into somebody else's. And then I can focus on the bigger tasks. So yeah, tiny actions that I can take each morning that just move the tennis ball to their side of the court.
That's powerful. And it's funny because we're doing taxes and stuff here in the US right now or whatever. I don't know how it works like globally, but my CPA texted me because he sent something in my inbox like at 7 this morning, and I haven't checked my emails all day. So here we are in the evening, it's like 4 p.m. and he's like, hey, I need like 3 answers from you, which I did in 1 minute right before our call. But if he hadn't texted me, I probably wouldn't have gotten back to him. And there's a whole day wasted where a quick text message, maybe he'll learn, next time, like text me real quick and I'll get back to it. Otherwise the inbox, it's easy to accumulate so many things, right? But if you could put the ball in their court, there you go. You bought yourself the whole day, and now they have time to get back to your requests.
Yeah. And I think emails are one of the biggest challenges for productivity.
Yes.
So a lot of my productivity tips are around email. So, I try generally on a good day to spend the first hour of the day avoiding my inbox. So that sounds a bit counterintuitive to what I just said, but the first hour of the day, I like to try and lick the frog. I can't eat the frog, but I give that frog a good lick. So I do a task that I don't want to do, or a big job that's going to take a couple of months, but I want to chip away at it, so that when I get to my inbox, I already have that feeling of satisfaction that I've done an hour of solid work. Because as soon as you open your inbox, you go into responsive mode, don't you? You start responding to other people's
stress mode
needs.
almost.
Totally. So I only give myself 15 minutes with my inbox, and I delegate and I I do the 3-line email thing. I'm very polite, but I'm very brief. And then, any emails that I can't answer, I do not leave them in my inbox. It's not my to-do list. I move them into a tool that I use called Asana, because if there are jobs that I need to, because if there are jobs that I need to do, they need to go into the big pool of jobs and be prioritized. Whereas what we can tend to do is prioritize our inbox because it's right in front of us, then distracts us from that big thing that we really need to do today. This actually isn't important. We're doing it because it's kind of easier than the big thing. Pretty much always have inbox 0, which I know people hate me for that, but it's because I take every task that's actually a task and I put it into Asana. And then I go and shuffle my Asana around and say, can I actually do that task today? Maybe not, maybe it's tomorrow. But Asana is my project management tool. My inbox is not my project management tool. And I think that's a really important distinction to make.
I love that. And I actually need to implement that because I've been guilty. I read it and I don't want to reply to it. So I mark it as unread, and then it sits there and now I have 20 unread, and it becomes a little crazy because then you don't get back to it for like 5 days because you're kind of ignoring it. I'm guilty of that.
It's almost like that cold shower thing, where people, if you're really in control of your mind, you can force yourself to have a cold shower. Yeah. And sometimes I do have to kind of like gird my loins and go, I am going to answer all these emails, even though they're fiddly and they're difficult and they're annoying. And I'm going to give I use the Pomodoro method with the tomato timer, 25 minutes. So
That's great.
I'm going to spend 25 minutes on my inbox. If I don't get it done by then, that's fine. I'll move on to a different task, but I only have 25 minutes. And we've talked about this on Clubhouse. Huge believer in Parkinson's law, where the time expands to fit, the job expands to fit the time that you give it. So if you give yourself 25 minutes, guess what? It'll take 25 minutes. It does. It's magical.
It's crazy how that happens. And maybe you get it done 90% as well as you would if you had a full hour, but done is better than perfect. I've stressed that mantra before.
Oh, I should have that on a t-shirt and a hat and on my forehead, because that's how I live. And that's really important. I read the other day that perfectionism is actually insecurity. It's actually a manifestation of insecurity, because you're like, it has to be perfect. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And people will judge me and I have to check it again and again and again. Whereas if you're a bit more confident about what you do, you're happy to put things out in the world. And if people criticize them, you take that criticism and you improve them. But a lot of people hold themselves back. And it's actually, they call it perfectionism, but it's actually some kind of insecurity. So I find that very interesting.
That is interesting. And I guess you're right, because it's a little bit of an insecurity. People are perfectionists, just from what I've seen, because they're afraid of putting something out that won't be received well or won't be good or isn't great quality. And all of that kind of goes back to worrying about what other people think, which I guess once you separate from that and you don't really care and you just produce content or, create content every single day, your tribe will start to be attracted to you, and they don't care if it's 100% perfect. Maybe that person who isn't a good fit for you cares, but that's why they're not in your audience.
Yeah. And I think it's with, building a business is iterative. It's never perfect the first time. And if it is, well, then there's something slightly wrong there. Like, I like putting things out into the world, getting that bit of feedback from my customers, not my competitors, not my naysayers, but my customers, and making it better and better. Like, the first time I launch is the first time. There's going to be 15 more. There's going to be 15 more launches, and each time it's going to get better. So, and I also find that if you take your customers on the journey, like you say, I just launched a course on how to write sales pages, and it's nearly ready to go. And I put the sales page for the sales page, very meta, up and said, hey, what do you think? And I got all the people in my community to give me feedback. And then I'm making it better so that when it goes out to the wider world, it's going to be a killer sales page for a sales page. And they've helped me. And why do all the work myself when I can get customer feedback and they can do 20% of the work for me? Fantastic.
That's amazing. And that way you're leveraging your ideal avatar anyway. I mean, the people in your audience are the ones that you'd like to attract for future clients or customers. And they're coming up with the sales copy and the marketing and the hook for you, because it can be very difficult when you're looking at that blank Google sheet or piece of paper to come up with everything, versus having, like you said, they create 20% of it for you already. That's incredible.
Yeah, and they're invested and they feel like they're part of it. So therefore, they're much more likely to take the next step and actually buy the thing because they feel like they were
Right.
part of the
Because they
thing.
contributed to it in some
Yeah,
way.
exactly. One thing can I ask you a question? Because I
Yeah,
think this
we
is
could go
really
either
interesting.
way.
You mentioned earlier that your accountant had to send you a text. Now, that actually sent shivers down my spine of horror and repulsion
Like personal.
because no, just the different ways that people like to communicate. And I think that's a real challenge to productivity. We've got text messages coming in, emails,
Yes.
phone calls. We've got Instagram Messenger, Facebook Messenger, LinkedIn Messenger, all these notifications. And I think a lot of people get overwhelmed with that. And if someone texted me, honestly, I would like call them up and say, you're no longer my accountant. Like, do not text. So how do you cope with all those different communication methods coming in?
That's a great question. I'm trying to figure that out still. I'm actually going to implement this for my clients in real estate going forward of having an intake form with a few questions like, what is your preferred method of communication? Is it phone call? Is it text message? Is it email? And I'd hope that people would do that with me as well, because sometimes they'll call me. I never answer my phone. I send it to voicemail. My voicemail tells them to text me or email me. So I am open to text messages if it's important. Whenever someone random on Instagram gets my phone number and texts me, that's sometimes annoying. Like, okay, I'm glad you listened to my podcast. That's great. You're an excited 16-year-old who wants to start a business, but like texting me to check my DMs and Instagram, like that's not really cool. Cause I'm sure like you do, I have so many DMs and I just batch it. Kind of like you said, Pomodoro. I sit there, timer. Okay, I reply to as many things as I can. And I still have unread messages, but then I switch. So right now, I mean, I push everyone, if possible, to book a call on Calendly, and that will be like a 15-minute Zoom call. And that way I can get from all those platforms. If anyone wants to work with me or talk about potentially doing a podcast, I can jump on a quick call with them to vet and see, does this person seem like a good fit? Are they serious if they're wanting to work with me for real estate stuff? Or are they someone who's going to schedule it, cancel 30 minutes before, try to reschedule it, and then no show? And then I'm like, okay, I'm removing the option from them to schedule time on my calendar. So to answer your question, I don't have a great way, but I do try to push anyone who's serious about working together to book a 15-minute Zoom call.
I love that. And I think, for people listening, it's a huge challenge, huge challenge. And
yes,
I think you have the right, if you're a supplier, then you have to communicate with the client the way they want to be communicated with. Like lots of the copywriters in my community are like, oh, I hate ringing people. And I'm like, well, bad luck. If they want to speak
right.
to you, that's what you want. So with me, I'm the same. Like I'm an email person and I have no qualms if someone personal messages me or Instagram message me saying, thanks for the message. I don't use this messenger function. If you want to get in touch, go to my email. And generally people are asking something of me. So if they're not willing to go through the route that I want them to go to, well, then they don't get me. Right. And having forms, I think is so important. Like really look at your contact form. And, when we start with our contact form, we can think, well, just ask for name, mobile, and question. And that's great, but you're going to get a lot of tire kickers. Every field you add to your contact form reduces the amount of people who will fill it in by something like 20%. They've done studies on it. But sometimes you want that. You want to add more fields to get more relevant targeted customers who actually are willing to articulate what they need in a way that makes it helpful. I can't bear it when someone on LinkedIn sends a message saying, can we just have a quick chat? And I'm like, what
chat about what?
What do you want? If you can't write it in an email to me, why am I just going to get on the phone with a random? I've only got 6 hours a day to work. So you got to really make it clear to me what you want. I'm happy to chat, but I think people find that challenging. And one thing that I've done, which I think really changed my business, was institute a chatbot on Facebook. And apparently they're bringing chatbots to Instagram as well. So
wow,
I use I use short messages on Instagram. So I've got some hashtag messages that I can use, like hashtag club if you want my Clubhouse guide, and it just generates a little bit of text. But ManyChat on Facebook, I really misunderstood chatbots. And I was like, they're going to be so impersonal. I don't want people to think they're dealing with a robot. But I have a great friend called Dan Pinney, and he explained that they're really not about trying to have a conversation with a robot. They're about trying to solve the problem as quickly as possible. Like, I don't care if it's a robot, if they answer my question straight away. So, and the goal is not to keep them on that chatbot for ages. It's maybe going to be like a 3 or 4 message exchange that sends them in the right direction. And that could be, go and download this thing, go and join my group, go and fill my form, go and book a discovery session. But it's happened instantaneously at 6 a.m. in the morning when I'm at the gym. They're already satisfied, they're moved to the next step. So I think chatbots can be great, and you just mustn't misunderstand that it's not about alienating and being impersonal. It's about solving the problem when the person has it. And that was a real mindset shift for me.
Absolutely. I'm taking notes over here. So if I'm looking to the side, it's because I'm writing them down. And
oh, great.
And you're so right that we have to really just take these steps, because so many times, especially with the various means of communication, the ball is in my court on 50 different messages at the same time on different platforms, and it's very stressful. And sure, you can give access to a VA or an admin of some sort, but the only concern there is like, will you lose? Would it be impersonal? You lose some of your voice. Maybe they reply in a way that you wouldn't have replied, right? So there's a little bit of the fine line. And I have had a few people that have told me like, Chris, I did this and it's been amazing. I gave my assistant access to my email inbox, and they don't write like, I haven't done that yet, but it's been on my mind, because like that way I could get back to emails faster. But instead of them replying, acting like they're me, I would obviously prefer them to just say, hey, this is so-and-so, Chris's assistant. Chris is in a meeting right now, but he'll get back to you on this. So that may be one way. One thing that's helped me, and I'm not sure if you do this with your emails, if I'm busy, I'll set an out of office responder saying, hey, I'm in several back-to-back meetings. Here's my Zoom link if you want to get on my calendar, or you can email my assistant. Here's her email address, and just copy me on the email.
Yeah, I don't do out of offices. Partially, I've got a little thing about that because I get quite a lot of spam.
Right.
And as soon as you send an email back, the spam bot is like, aha, this is a real inbox now. So we will send you even more spam. So I don't do that, but I do have.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that.
I have, I used to be email marketing manager for a big mobile brand, and that's a big problem. One thing I do is I've set up separate email addresses that literally say admin at Kate Toon, admin at the recipe for SEO success. So it's very clear that it's not me. And yes, they're not my inbox, so I can keep that private and personal, because, you know, some personal emails are going to drop into your inbox that you might not want people seeing.
Right.
So having that separate email really helps. It also means in the morning, when emails come through, if there's things that I can delegate, I can just forward that email to their inbox. And just like you, they say very clearly, I'm working with Kate. This is, you know, not Kate. And that helps a lot. And that, you know, that having that set up means in the morning, I'm just like, bang, 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 sending these emails off to different email. And then again, they become someone else's problem to deal with. I think communication is a huge issue. And I think also you mentioned not answering your phone. I too do not answer my phone. My phone number is freely available, but I never answer it because, you know, we know that every time you take a call, it can take you about 15 minutes to get your mind back to the task you were doing. Also, telephone calls also raise the adrenals. They turn the energy into a different kind of energy. So if you're trying to do deep work and write something, you have a phone call, it's very hard to get back to the deep work.
Yes.
So I think that's so important not to answer your phone. Is that a bad message to be putting out there? But yeah.
That's so powerful. And I think that's been a huge contributor to my success in real estate, which I know I see it in Facebook groups like, oh my gosh, agents are so bad. You don't answer the phone. Does your client know you don't answer any of the leads that are wanting to buy their house? And I'm like, no, I'm filtering through, because 80 or 90% of the calls I get are spam anyway. They're trying to sell me something like, oh, hey, Chris, like, how's it going today? And I'm like, okay, good. How are you? Like, is this someone who wants to buy a house that I have listed, or are they trying to sell me on something? 90% of the time, it's like the latter. And when you push them to text you or follow your system, send you an email, like your form earlier, you said the contact form, the more fields you have, the better, because you're really filtering out the people who aren't willing to take that step. Like if someone is not willing to book a 15-minute Zoom call with me, I don't want to work with them because they're going to be calling me every 5 minutes and I don't answer my phone. So it's not going to be a good fit. But you have to understand, for those listening, what is that preferred method of communication? What box do you want your clients to fit in to be able to work with you?
I think that's such an important attitude shift, because often, especially if we're starting out, we're like, anybody with a pulse and a credit card is our ideal client. Yeah. And we will answer the phone at all times of night and day because we just need the work. And that is, let's not lie, that we've all been in that zone, and I've been in that zone too. That, you know, setting those boundaries up actually builds much more respectful relationship between supplier and client. You know, it's not that you are there, they're the dom and you're the sub. It's a meeting of two experienced humans, or two people, one who has a need, one who can fulfill that need, and you need to be professional about it. And as soon as you establish those boundaries and say, this is how I work, book my call, and someone follows that through, you already know that they're going to be the kind of client that's going to be respectful the whole way through. Whereas if they're like, well, can I just call you now? Can we just chat now? Because this is really important. It's a really big deal. I've got a $70 million house. You should want to speak to me.
Right.
You just know they're going to be an ass
the whole time,
the whole way through. And that commission is going to not be worth it. You're going to hate every minute of your life.
Which sounds crazy, because I mean, I've had those deals where you think about all the money, but then you take it. And I don't know if I talked about this in the Clubhouse room, but I have vented about it before. I did have a client like that I took on, that there were some red flags, some negative tones that he would say, or I'd answer the phone and say, how's it going? He's like, oh, you tell me, like, how's it going? And it would just be so negative from the start, right? And I accepted him because he had 10 properties he wanted to sell. He ended up asking for a commission reduction, so I reduced it. And by the time it was all said and done, it was just that took up the most time, was the biggest drain of my energy every time I had to work with him. And it was the smallest commission check. Like, it took 3 deals to get like $6,000, whereas I had one good deal with a great client that was like double that. Less time, much more pleasant. I was happy to answer the phone when that person called. And
it's so strange, isn't it? It's the squeaky, we call it the squeaky wheel in England.
Yes.
That, the squeaky wheel gets all the attention. And that's the same with the inbox. It's that client that sends the email that says, urgent, Chris, read now.
And it's like nothing.
And there's nothing. And then there's these other clients who are just quietly bobbing along, being good clients, and they get the least attention. And we need to shift our focus to care about the people that care about us. But that can be really hard, especially when you're busy, because you go into putting out fire mode. You're like leaping about like a cat trying to jump on different fires. And, one of the biggest things for me has been to think about my hourly rate. And that's a really weird one, because I don't have an hourly rate.
But coming up with the number is important, right?
Yeah, really coming up with a number. So, working out, what you earn a month or what you want to earn, and, maybe picking a nominal figure. So I know you have your scorecard system, and we must talk about this. I know you probably talked about it, but I want to hear about it again. So I will kind of say, what's my hourly rate? Maybe I'm going to say right now it's $1,000 an hour. So then if I think of that, and I have a little sticker right here on my screen that says, is this the best use of your time? Are you investing your time clever? Because that human capital is the one thing that we never get any more of. We can always make more money, we can hire more people, but our time. So I look at what I'm doing and I go, I'm spending $1,000 an hour on this. Is this Clubhouse room worth $1,000? Is this me messing around on Instagram, scrolling through people doing gym exercises while I eat a muffin? Is this the best use of my time? And that's been really helpful to me, to think about the money I am throwing away when I waste time. Not that we need to be on it all, not that we need to be like on it and hustling at 3 a.m., but we do need to be thinking about the time that we have, and that we are investing something that we will never get back. We'll never get those hours back. So I use that little method. But I want to hear about the scorecard again, because I love the scorecard. I'm so obsessed with the scorecard. Can you tell everyone about the scorecard? I know this is your podcast, and I'm telling you.
No, I love this. We can go any way. So actually, I can pull it up on my screen and share my screen. So let's see. Can you see my screen?
I can. Oh my God, it's there.
Awesome. Yeah. So I have a bunch of stuff like self-development. If I look here, I'm literally tracking, did I do a morning routine? Did I fast? Did I meditate? Have I exercised?
Chest and tries. What's tries?
Triceps.
Awesome.
And then here I have my daily critical tasks. This is the real essence of the scorecard. I have all kinds of things that I'm, measuring, but basically, if you can see at the top, I determine what's most important to me. So I have a contract out for a buyer who wants to buy a house. And if the seller writes his signatures on there as well and executes it, I give myself 3 points, because that is the highest chance that I'm going to get, $5,000 or $10,000 commission out of that deal in a month from now. Showing houses is another one. Like, if they're looking at houses, they're going to end up writing offers. Podcast interviews, it leads to more content and connection. So I give myself 2 points. But essentially, as I record things, so right today I have 4 podcasts. So I'm giving myself 2 points times the 4 is 8. And so I kind of weight how important it is. And even here, if I add, let's say I do a self-development call, I give myself 1 point. So you'll see the points change to 9 on there.
God,
It's cool, right?
This is so sexy to me. I find Excel spreadsheets sexy. I'm a weirdo. I love the fact you have the color coding that changes.
And I can look at today's score at a quick glance on this first tab. So boom.
God,
I know that I got all my points from podcasts. And if I get an executed contract, this is going to be another 3 points.
So what's the highest points you've ever got in the day?
Oh, I've been killing it lately. Thank you for asking. There are days where I'm just like, wow, I got like 20 points. I can actually find that for you real quick. I'm actually curious to see this as well. So,
and can we get this? I want this so bad.
Yeah. So I do have a free version that I offer, but I can send you this. I need to actually update the free version to show this, but
so gorgeous. I take the tries bit off. My tries are appalling.
Okay. So the most I've had in a day so far is 13 points.
Wow. That was a killer day.
Yes, but I try my very best to get these points in during the weekdays. The weekends are just bonus. So here, if you see on yesterday was Monday. I slacked a little bit. I'll be honest. I got 4 points instead of the 5.
Chris, do you have punishment for when you don't get to a certain level? I think there should be punishment. I think you should have.
That's true. I do like that. But I guess my main thing, I'm trying to hit at least 25 points a week. So if I hit 5, for the week. So if I look at, let's see, last week was the 22nd to the 26th.
That was a good week. So does the personal development stuff play in as well, or is it just work stuff?
This is just the work stuff. The personal development is just to kind of track, my own. So I've done a morning routine every day.
I think that's interesting as well to say, because, we're always talking about balance with productivity and work, okay, maybe I didn't do as many podcasts this week, but I did go to the gym twice and I took my vitamins every day. So I'm still going to give myself 20 points this week because I had a rounded week. I like that approach as well. Do you know what I mean?
Even track how many pages I read. So see here, it looks confusing. I put -5 because there was like the preface and the intro that didn't count as pages, but I read them. So see, 4-hour work week, I read 28 pages today.
Yeah. You see, I think this to me is like manna from heaven. I think some people would look at this and think that we're weirdos.
Like, what are you doing?
Would never work for them. But I love the accountability of this, but also it's no one, when you're working for yourself, there is no one to pat your bottom and say you've done a good job. And this spreadsheet allows you to self-pat your own bottom and motivate yourself. Because that's one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, is to turn up each day and do, whether you're feeling good or bad. I told Chris before this podcast, which is why I look so hideous on the video, that I've been up since 3 a.m. because our fire alarm went off. But I still come down and I do. And that persistence is the difference between success and failure. So that spreadsheet is life to me, Chris. I must.
Thank you. Yeah, I will share it with you for sure. And I do have like a more basic version that I have.
I want the full one.
But I will update it though. But for everyone listening, if you are interested in stopping by, it's just completely free, no opt-in page or anything. If you just go to chrisbello.com/scorecard, it'll redirect to like the Google Drive where I have the free file available. So I'll just basically update this file. I'll clear out the template so everyone can use it for themselves. And it should have tables and everything where you refresh it and it automatically updates the tables. I did all kinds of cool stuff.
I love it. Anybody who can master Excel is pretty impressive. But I think this is so important because we're talking about productivity today. And when you're a business owner, there's weird things that we measure ourselves by, isn't it? Sometimes you'll measure yourself by how much money you're making. That's where a lot of us start. I want to hit 6 figures, 7 figures. Right. I think we're supposed to be 8-figure entrepreneurs now. Apparently, that's what I heard.
That's what's cool now. Yeah.
Apparently. And so that can be very hollow and shallow when you don't attach that to anything meaningful and you hit those financial goals and they kind of don't satisfy. And then we can move into productivity as our success metric. But again, that's a really hard stick to beat yourself with. Yes. Because as you said, on Monday, you weren't feeling it. You turned up, you got your 4 points, but you can't be 20 points every day.
Right.
And if you're measuring yourself by that, you're going to really burn out really quickly.
But the thing that I love
that it's incentivized there by different tasks.
Definitely. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say the thing that I love is that I'm just trying to hit 25 points a week. So if I hit my 25 points by Wednesday, Thursday and Friday are just like bonus. I don't care if I do 2 points that day because I'm closing deals. I mean, I've had my strongest real estate quarter, for example. And yesterday, check out the lifestyle freedom piece. I put that I worked out twice. I went to the gym And then my girlfriend and I went on a 1.5 hour hike with the dog. We just moved to Colorado from Texas recently.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, like 10 days ago, like very, very recently. So we were taken in the mountains, and it was our 4-year anniversary. So we got dinner, drinks, we got ice cream. I only did one Zoom call yesterday. Everything else was like fun. And somehow, how did I get 4 points? I don't know how I did 4 points.
I think the ice cream counted for 3. So,
You're right.
I think
the ice cream counts for 3.
You should get dog points. Like dog points every year in dog life is like 7 years in human life or something. So you get 7 points every time.
For walking the dog. Yeah, no, she loves it. I've already taken her out like 3 times today. So she's happy.
And this is it though. We need to reward, like I take my dog for a walk every morning, and that is something that I do. It's good. And we need to reward ourselves for those things as well.
Absolutely.
Because the reason why I was so obsessed with your scorecard after you mentioned it on Clubhouse, it is that sort of forgiveness and permission piece. Because again, we don't have anyone to motivate us. And the thing that I need a lot of, have you seen the movie Babe? You know, Babe with the little pig?
It's been a while, but yes, I think I have.
Well, you get a point if you watch that. But at the end of it, the farmer, who's very unemotional and not, you know, not a rawly open man, says to the pig, "That'll do, pig."
That'll do.
And the pig knows that it's done a good job. And there's nobody in my day-to-day life to say, "That'll do, Kate. You can stop now."
Right. There's never a stopping point.
No, I did like a 12-hour day yesterday. I was working on that sales page course. I did a podcast. I did this. I did that. And then today I'm like, right, let's scale the mountain again. And it's like, no, you know, I've already earned my 25 points. Today I can dial it down a notch. This is why I need the scorecard. Give it to me. Because otherwise we can productivity ourselves into the grave. You know, we can burn out. And
so
that's a
true.
real issue. So.
And that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. I mean, I posted this on my social media recently. Like, the reason I quit my job and pursued this entrepreneurial path was because I wanted free time. I wanted to be in control of my time and schedule. The only problem is now that I'm here, I'm like going crazy because I'm so bored. I have so much time and I'm still bringing in income that I'm like, what do I do? So I have like on my whiteboard, things that I want to do: join a yoga studio, go rock climbing, get bikes, finish my skydiving license that I kind of like never took the test on. And so finding the fulfillment, but having like, this is such a great problem. I'm so blessed to have this problem, and we wouldn't have been here if we hadn't started our businesses. But now I need to not continue to hustle at 3 a.m. Like you said, I don't want to hustle at 3 a.m. I go to bed at 10. So knowing what's important.
Yeah. And finding those other things. You know, you're younger than me, so you've got here faster than I did. It's taken me a while, but I'm at that point too, where I'm like, I've got my to-do list, but I want to have my to-be list as well. And my to-be list is, you know, I want to finish my Italian. I'm learning to roller skate at the moment. Last year I learned to drive. And you know, I can. That's your go. Put that on your list, Chris.
I need to learn. I haven't done that since like the PE class in 2nd grade.
It's so good for you. It's so good. But yeah, you can. Because what we'll do is your job will fill every crack. It's like, you know, it's like
Parkinson's law.
Slides into, yeah, totally. And so it's almost, but if you don't have anything else that you want to do, you'll let that happen. And obviously I have a son and a dog, and they kind of bookmark the day with school pickup and school drop off. But it's still very easy for me to just keep on creating projects. And what I need to start doing is creating outside of work projects, like
I love
as
that.
you said, you know, and so that there is an alternative. So I'm like, oh, I want to finish at 4 today because I really want to practice my roller skating or whatever it is. And that, I think that's a challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs, because it does feel like every minute you're not working, you're missing an opportunity. This FOMO, YOLO, BOLO, I don't know, approach. And it's really rammed down our throat on LinkedIn and on social media that we need to be making the most out of every single minute of the day. And that's exhausting. It's a really exhausting way to live.
It really is. And one thing that can help, this is some tip that I just recently kind of implemented. First, I got very clear. I have Calendly links like I've mentioned before. And I got very clear. I was like, you know, I don't want people to book me at 6 or 7 p.m. on a Saturday. If I have an opening, they may do that. If I reduce the window, I'll stop having bookings in times that I don't want to do. And same thing with if you have someone important in your life, like my girlfriend, I gave her access to view my calendar so she knows when I'm doing stuff. And I just told her, hey, if there's something you want to do, if you want to get dinner, or if there's a time you want to go out of town, send me a calendar invite and it'll block it out. So no, because otherwise I'm going to be like, I already have 2 podcasts booked that day. Like I can't go do that thing. But if it's on my calendar, no one can book me at that time. And I have that time reserved for that activity.
Can I just say hallelujah? And sounds like a very unromantic thing to say, but I think it's especially true with blokes. Hope sweeping generalization.
No,
like
we forget.
It's not unromantic to schedule romantic time. I think it's so important. So we do exactly the same. Me and my partner, I use Google Calendar. We block out time.
I love it. You have to.
You have to. I use different colors. So all my marketing-y stuff is purple. So I can really quickly look at my week and go, this week's a big marketing week for me. I'm on like 6 podcasts and doing whatever. And I go, okay, well, next week there should be less purple because it shouldn't all be marketing. And, I have pink for romance time and I have yellow for me stuff, happy sunshine time, exercise, gym, dog. And those colors, I look for the balance in the colors. It's an easier way of really quickly, visually, cognitively processing how my week is looking. But scheduling, your friends, your family, your loved ones is important, especially if you have a busy life. And so to any women listening, it sounds unromantic, but I think it's super romantic.
Put it on the calendar.
Put it on the calendar. It works for me. It really does.
That's such a good tip. And I'm pretty sure I got this from you in Clubhouse. Like I've written this down before, like I need to color code my calendar because right now everything's the same color. And I have written it down, grays for vacation, blues for podcast, red is for like that thing I can't move maybe. I did go so far as making green for my intro client calls. I'm like, that's money. Like those are my money calls. And so the green calls, I should honor those if possible.
Yellow is really sunshiny. So yellow should be holidays.
Outdoors,
fun stuff. Yeah,
taking the dog out for a walk.
Vitamin D. Yeah, exactly. It really works. And it makes you very conscious that we only have so many hours in the day. The other thing that we talked about on Clubhouse is when I do my to-do list, sometimes I will only do 3 things on my to-do list because that really makes me think about what the 3 priorities are. Because sometimes you get to the point where you've done something and you write it on your to-do list and then you cross it out so you can have that feeling of satisfaction.
Yes.
So 3 things. But also when I write a thing on my to-do list, I put the time I'm going to give it next to it. And I look at my day, like I look at my day today, and I've got so many things I would like to get done. But then I look at the day and I go, realistically, the time that I have that I'm not on calls or running coaching calls or speaking to my team, I've got an hour and a half realistically today. So what is one thing I can do today? But I think because otherwise what we do is we really set very high expectations of ourselves. Most of us in this kind of role are high achievers. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves and we think we're superhuman. And so what we do is we make these to-do lists that are impossible. Then we don't tick things off. Then we feel bad that we haven't done it. And we feel like we're not performing as well as we should. And we do the same thing every single day.
So many people right now can resonate with this.
And at the end of the week, you're like looking at your thing going, I didn't achieve this. I didn't achieve this. It can be really helpful to just write down everything you did achieve at the end of the week. And your spreadsheet is great for that. Sometimes I will just go and make a big list of, look, I did 6 podcasts this week. I ran 4 coaching calls. I did this. Looking at what I did do, we talked about the to-do list and the to-be list, but the to-done list versus the to-do list is really important as well because we so don't pat ourselves on the back, and that constant feeling of deprivation and failure is a terrible stick to beat yourself with every day.
It really is. And I mean, I wish I had created a scorecard like this for myself earlier, but I didn't even really start real estate in self-development. The whole journey these all started as individual tools. Like how many pages am I reading? How many times am I fasting a week or meditating? And it became this huge tool where I've got one tab with my net worth where I can track the ups and downs and see how's it trending? Is it looking better or worse? Or am I spending too much money? And so whatever it is, like I think Peter Drucker's attributed with saying what gets measured gets managed. And what I love about this as well is that at the end of the year, I have enough historical data with my real estate, for example, where I can see the growth from like 2019 to 2020 to 2021. I'm like, the graph just keeps going up in terms of the income and less deals and higher commissions. And so same thing with our scorecard. I'll send it for sure. Whenever you look back at the end of the year, it's going to be very amazing to be like, out of 365 days, how many times did I spend on Zoom calls? Like how many podcast interviews did I do? How many client calls did I have? And it can be more helpful than guessing and being like, oh, well, how did I do better this year? What did I do differently? Now you know the activities that led to that success.
I love that because also it's not just based on money.
Right.
because we can, there are years, like about 4 years ago, I said, when I went to passive income, when I was still having clients and I was trying to build this new thing, but I had to reduce the amount of clients to build the thing. So my income went down. Now, if I judged myself on that year was a failure. My income went down by like 50%.
Yeah.
The next year it went up by like 209%. But I did because it was financially based, I might not have seen that growth.
And you might have thought, this isn't working, I should just keep doing what I'm doing.
Exactly. And I love that. One thing I wanted to ask you though, and we're going to sound like freaks to a lot of people who are listening with spreadsheets and Parkinson's law and 25-minute Pomodoro sessions, is do you allow time in I know you've got your point system where you say, when I've reached these points, I can be free, but it all sounds very regimented. And, like you are in full control. And I've always wanted to be that kind of person, the person that gets up and does yoga at 4 a.m. and has a cold shower. And do you have days where you're just a slob? Or where you just go, I can't be bothered today. I'm just going to lie in bed and eat cake and watch Netflix.
I guess the point system, what's helpful about it is if I am a slob one day, or if I don't get, like I had 4 points instead of the 5. So it was red because I give myself, it turns green if it's 5 or more points. And I didn't feel bad about it because I still have, I think I have like 13 or 14,000 in commissions that are closing in the next week or two. Like deals are still closing. The work that I've done is yielding results that I know I'm still going to benefit from financially. But at the same time, like I sometimes feel guilty, but also the way I'm so regimented, by the time I do my morning routine, post a video, share an episode that I did, I finish everything really, like I get my points by 10 a.m. usually. Yeah. And it sounds crazy. So that gives me the entire day to like, oh, let me get lunch with, my brother was in town. He visited Colorado, for example. I got lunch with him. My day doesn't start. I have no appointments really until 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah, I think that's really important as well. Like thinking about your time. So I have Mondays and Fridays generally where I don't book anything into the calendar.
Same.
Yeah. And Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, I go pretty hard. I also only try and have one maximum 2 late nights a week. So late night to me is 6 p.m. Yep. So because I've got members who are in the UK, I'm in Australia, I have to have something in the evening occasionally to kind of, so they can turn up for live calls, but I would limit that to maximum twice a week. And I never work on weekends. And those are my boundaries. And that means I have to work pretty hard on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like I do go hard, but I know that Friday's coming. Friday, I just go to the gym. And I have the option to work if I want to. Like I give myself the freedom.
Half the time I do work because I get bored, right?
Yeah, me too. This is it. Because we're kind of super speedy people. Like my partner will be like, well, why don't you, go to the gym and have a coffee and do your roller skating? I'm like, it's 9 o'clock. I've done all of that.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I'm done, But I think when I get your scorecard, I'm going to change the red for underperformance to something like a purple of forgiveness,
I love that.
like it's not like angry red. It's like, it's okay. You can have these kind of slower days, I like that.
Because it's important to do that. And I mean, that's half the time when I want to hustle or do more. I mean, I showed you a few examples where I had 11 or 13 points in a day. Like today, this is my 4th podcast really of the day. And I give myself 2 points for each. So 8 points, I'm already 3 points in excess. So that buys me 3 points to slack tomorrow. In that way, it's a give or take. Like I also go pretty hard on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. I have all my calls and appointments. And then I try to keep Mondays and Fridays for just like thinking, planning, if I want to go hiking for 3 hours now that I'm out, in an outdoor area, like I'll go do that. And I won't feel guilty about it. I sometimes feel I have that. We all do. I think all high performers, we're thinking like, gosh, I could be doing this. Or what if there's a client who wants to talk? This happened the other day. A client sent me a home on Sunday evening. Hey, can we see this in an hour? First of all, they think that I'm still in Houston. They don't realize that I moved 1,000 miles away. So I texted 2 people like, hey, can one of you guys show this house? They couldn't do it. No one can do stuff on that short of a timeline, especially something that requires driving to a physical place. And so I kind of responded right before I went on my hike, like, hey, we really need at least 24 hours heads up because otherwise it's hard to plan. There's other appointments already on the calendar. Just use that script. It's not on the calendar, so we can't honor it.
And people are going to deal with that. People are going to be fine with that.
And if they want to leave, that's fine. They might not be your ideal client.
Well, this is it. I've had people call me when I was a copywriter on Saturday morning. And when I said, or when I don't reply, they're like, well, really, clearly you're not taking your business seriously.
That's the worst.
I am
taking it very seriously.
You're not taking my business seriously because you're not respecting my boundaries. And,
I love
that can be a super, super challenge. Yeah. I mean, I think the whole productivity thing is interesting, and how we drive and push ourselves. And there are little hacks. I mean, in terms of tools that we love, I'm a big lover of Slack. Slack changed my relationship to email. So none of my team send emails anymore. Obviously, Google Drive is great. So you're not sending great big documents around and trying to find documents. I use Asana for my task management. And then I used, when I was really trying to be good, and this is a great tip for anybody, is to maybe use something like Toggl, Toggl, just for a week, to track your time. So you set the timer off, you stop the timer, you set the timer off, you stop the timer. And then just at the end of the week, really look at how much time you've spent on faffing about. I worked in agency, and when you work in agency, it's like being a lawyer. I had to be 80% billable.
Right.
So, of my hours in the week, 80% had to be earning money, and only 20% could be faffing around. And now, as a copywriter, most of my copywriters, I make them do this exercise, 4 things. And most of them are about 50% billable, which is fair enough. It's a creative job. You can't just switch it on like a tap. Mm-hmm. But then when I say that to them, I'm like, well, look at your week. You've got 20 hours to work. But really, only 10 of them are earning you money. So the hourly rate that you're charging needs to be covering that, because at the moment you're basing your hourly rate on having 20 hours a week. You don't have 20 hours a week. You have 10. So it really makes you think. So that's a little tip about, because we can think we're being productive, but we can also be a busy fool, and we're doing all the things, but we're actually not. We're just kind of flapping around doing doggy paddle. We're not actually getting any further down the pool. We're just going around in circles.
I love that. I've heard a few people mention it. Like, sometimes we can think that listening to podcasts or reading books is being productive, but if we're not applying those things, it could be really wasting time. And so I think that's another helpful method that I thought through on the scorecard is, what are the activities? Like, me listening to a podcast, I don't give myself points for that. It doesn't count. Me creating a podcast or being on a podcast, that counts for points, because it's creating content, putting stuff out there. So you've mentioned Asana, Toggl, Slack, Drive. Are there any other tools that you've said that you would say have transformed your business?
I mean, I'm a big fan of Xero from an accountancy, but that's a financial management tool over here, like a accounting tool.
Okay.
It took me a long time to find my kind of email marketing tool. I use ActiveCampaign.
I've heard good things.
Yeah. My social media tool would be Agora Pulse, which is an odd one, but that allows me to schedule across multiple platforms. And then, I use all the basic things like Canva. All my sites are on WordPress. But actually, another thing that I find, and I think, again, people will buy a lot of apps and tools thinking that they're improving their life, and they're not, So actually, I look at my finances and go, what are all these stupid subscriptions I'm paying for on some AppSumo deal that I got excited about? At the end of the day, I ran my business for 5 years with a pen and paper and didn't need any apps. So really, sometimes apps actually add to the complexity. Like, look at what you've made. I'm a big fan of a spreadsheet. Most of my things are done via spreadsheets. You don't need some sexy app on your phone. It's not going to change your life. You're going to change your life.
I love that. And I've tried so many different things, like for CRMs, and, I've used Airtable. I've used Trello. I tried putting everything in Asana. Asana is probably my favorite thing that I can manage everything with, checklists with my team members. But it comes back to that life tracker, which I also have another tab with all of my real estate deals, how much commission I'm making, what the price point is, and I can start to tweak and see which deals took forever to close and why, and then start to do some root cause analysis instead of just being like, oh, I made this much money at the end of the year. Like, how? I know how. How busy am I staying? Did I slow down on marketing? And so we've talked about a lot of great things, and I know we're nearing the end of the hour. So Kate, thank you once again for your time. Do you have any last productivity tip that you'd like to leave the audience before we let them know where to find you?
I think it's less of a productivity tip, but I think one big thing I wanted to say is, the world will wait. I think there's a big pressure on all of us to deliver and be a massive success next week. I'm 12 years into my business and I want to be doing this for the next 20, 30 years. If I achieved everything I wanted to achieve by tomorrow, it would be exactly what Chris said. I would just start making something else.
Right.
So, and I really think you have to enjoy the journey, enjoy the struggle, enjoy turning up, not be so focused on the end results, but just enjoy the day to day and not put too much pressure on yourself. Like, you will get there. And then you'll look back at all the things you've gone and created and be like, wow, look at everything I've done. It's really important to stop every now and again, look back over your shoulder, look at your scorecard and go, look what I did this year, rather than constantly making new things to do. So I think that's
so powerful.
Patience. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Kate, because yes, I love how you said, don't just look at your to-do, look at your to-done, or I forgot to-did.
I think it was to-did.
Look at your to-did list, because you're so right. I mean, you don't care. Once you check it off the list, you're looking at what else is still on the list, or you're putting more stuff on there versus looking back and being like, wow, I did a lot this year, this last 5 years. We've all probably accomplished most of our goals, if not all of them, that we set a few years ago. But we don't really pay attention because we're looking at the next goals, the next income level, right?
Exactly. You got to give yourself a pat on the back every now and again and say, that'll do, pig.
Great way to tie it all back. Well, thank you, Kate. And where can our audience go to learn more about you, join your Facebook group, and connect with you on everything?
I'm in the process, very slowly, of revamping my website. So if you head to Kate Toon, TOON.com, you can start your adventures into the Tooniverse, as I like to call it.
I love it. So katetoon.com. I'll put that in the show notes. And of course, you're on Clubhouse. You've got a lot of great value. That's how we connected. And thank you once again, Kate. I've really enjoyed this conversation today.
Me too. Thank you.